Hi, welcome to the Itihasa channel. Today we talk about the training that Karna got and its final culmination in the Ranga Bhumi or the exhibition, and how destiny lay in wait for the greatness of Karna. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Nagendraya Namaha, Om Ame Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Anjanaya Namaha, Om Subramanyaya Namaha, Swamiye Sharanamayyappo, Om Guruve Namaha. Through the Mahabharata, various people are described in various names at various points in time. We discussed how Karna was called by various names. He was called Radheya by his father because his father could see the absolute love that Radha had when she looked at Karna, though she had many other children after that, and the absolute love and devotion that Karna had for his mother. He was called Karna because of his long earlobes and the beautiful kundala that were attached to it. He was called Vashisena because he was born of wealth, because he came with this armor of gold and these beautiful glittering gold earrings. And just like this, there were so many other names for so many other people. Bhimasena would also be called Vrikodara. Arjuna had 10 names. Krishna himself had 100 names. Yudhishthira was also called Ajatashatru, which means a man with no enemies. Duryodhana was also Suyodhana, usually referred to Suyodhana by his close friends and his parents, Duryodhana by generally everyone else. And so the Mahabharata itself, which was told in the third person after the fact, which means the Mahabharata which was written down by Ganesha as dictated by Veda Vyasa, a lot of the names started to get formalized at the time of its writing. And so we will try to refer to Karna as Karna, though sometimes when in the Mahabharata itself he was referred to as Vashisena, we will talk about him as Vashisena. And so the great Karna set out to find greatness. He was 16 at the time when he left home, with a makeshift bow and a bunch of arrows, which he would keep practicing when he passed through certain forests, and he would kill birds with it, he would kill a few animals with it, and he went in search of a guru. In all these places where Karna went to get trained, he came across various rishis and munis who would teach him both the art of war and the theoretical knowledge of the Vedas. And at no point of time at that time was he discriminated against for being a Suryaputra or the son of a Suta. For a Suta is merely where the father is a Kshatriya and the mother is a Brahmana. It's just a type of a mixed Varna. And through the years, he went from place to place, training under one rishi, learning everything he had to learn from that rishi, and then going to the next one, learning everything. But deep in his heart, he knew that for the fame he craved, for the greatness that he craved, and for the honor that he craved, none of these rishis would be able to teach him everything that he needed to know. And sometime when he was around 25 or 27 years old, he heard about this great ashrama, this great Gurukula of Drona. Karna was around 10 years older than Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava. For it was 10 years after Kunti gave birth to Karna that she finally got married to Pandu, and then she went to the Shatashringa mountains, and then finally Dharmadeva came and Yudhishthira was born. So Karna was around 10 to 12 years elder than the eldest Pandava, Yudhishthira. And so it was around 25 or 27 years old when he heard about the great Gurukula of Drona. And he knew that that is where he could learn the finer nuances of archery, of Dhanurvedya, of the art of war, and even the astras. And so he made his way down to the ashram of Drona. Just like how Drona had looked the Nishada prince, the prince of the jungle, Ekalavya, up and down and assessed him, So did Drona also look at Karna up and down and assessed him. By then, Karna was a tall, well built man, strapping young man, as tall as a palm tree and handsome. The color of his father, the color of Surya Deva, with this beautiful golden armor and golden glittering earrings. And one look at this brave man, and Drona knew that he was destined for greatness. And he asked him his lineage, and Karna said that he is the son of Adiratha, the charioteer who was close to Dhritarashtra. And if needed, he could ask his father to talk to Dhritarashtra and get him a position as a student in the Gurukula. But that wasn't necessary. Drona realized that this boy would be willing to talk to Dhritarashtra, and it would be better to not involve Dhritarashtra, and so he took him in his Gurukula. But Drona knew that this boy was not a Kshatriya or a Kuru prince. And for Drona, the only person that mattered was Drona himself. So he knew that he could not let this boy outshine the Kuru princes, for that's where his bread, butter, and jam came from. And so he ensured that Karna would be on the sidelines of the Gurukula, training under some of the assistant teachers there. And Karna, though he would be taught all the forms of war, which included fighting with the mace, fighting with the sword, fighting with the bow and arrow, and various other curved and straight instruments of war, he always ensured that Karna was always on the sidelines. And Karna realized that he would never get the fine art of war, because Drona himself would never teach Karna. And Karna would oftentimes watch the Kuru princes learning their fine skills, and he would be in awe of Arjuna's skills and a little bit envious. He would look at Yudhishthira and be jealous of his rightfulness and his ability to amass innumerable amounts of shlokas and the Vedas and all the forms of theoretical knowledge. He would look at the mighty Bhimasena wield the mace and be a little envious at that great warrior. He would also be a little envious of Duryodhana when he would see him wield the mace. And when he would see the handsome twins, one dark, one fair, Nakula and Sahadeva, fighting with their swords, he would also be a little envious that he was not envious of these people. He was envious that they were given the position to learn while he was not. He knew that if he had the same teacher as these Kuru princes had, he would excel these Kuru princes by a length. And it was this that brought the envy in his heart, not the actual envy to these people per se. And one day, he went to his Guru Dronacharya when he was alone and approached him and touched his feet and said, "Oh, great Guru, teach me the astras like how you teach the Kuru princes. Teach me all the other finer aspects of Dhanurvidya. Teach me the finer aspects of the art of war, I beseech you." And Drona smiled, and he knew that this boy, if he was taught, would far excel the Kuru princes. It so happened that since Karna was on the sidelines most of the time at the Gurukula, none of the Kuru princes actually came in direct contact with Karna. And so none of them really knew him at that point of time, though he knew most of them. And then the Acharya Drona looked at Karna and told him something that Karna heard for the first time in his life, but he would hear for the rest of his life. He looked at Karna and told him, "You're not a true Kshatriya, you're a Sutaputra. You're the son of a Suta. While a Suta is not exactly like a Kshatriya, I cannot teach you the art and craft that I'm teaching the other true-born Kshatriyas." And for the first time in his life, the accent of his birth hit him. He was a child of circumstance, no longer a child, a master of his own destiny. Crestfallen, He paid his respects to Dronacharya, for he could no longer stay in that ashrama where he was insulted by his guru. And he walked away. Walked back to his home, to his mother, the only solace he would have, in whose arms he could lay his head down and get comforted. He spent some time at his mother's house, smarting from this insult that Dronacharya had meted on him, quite intentionally. For Dronacharya knew that if this boy persisted in the ashrama, he would still excel, and he didn't want to be part of teaching this boy. And the only way to get this boy out was to insult him, and that is the exact reason why Dronacharya insulted Karna. And one day it was said that Karna had a dream. He had a dream of who his ultimate teacher would be. He had a dream of the teacher who would teach him everything that he needed to know to excel and to achieve honor and fame. And that great teacher was no ordinary teacher. That teacher was the Avatara himself. Rama the Bhargava, the wielder of the Parashu or the axe, Parasurama. He knew that there was only one teacher who could teach him everything that he needed to know. The teacher who eventually taught Drona himself. Who better than the great Bhargava to go to? And so he set out from home once again to meet this great teacher. He reached the western coastline, from where he saw the formidable Mahendra mountain looming up in front of him, and started to walk up. As he walked, he passed through enchanted gardens and forests where the Gandharvas reigned, enchanted forests where the Yakshas reigned, and came to a beautiful clearing where a bright light emanated from under a banyan tree. And as he walked closer to that light, he saw that the light emanated from the great Bhargava Parasurama himself. That great Bhargava was in deep meditation with his eyes closed, and a flame was burning, tejas was emanating from him, lighting up the entire area. And in this idyllic area, Karna went down, prostrated himself in front of this great Maharishi, this great Mahatapaswin, and waited till his eyes opened. And one day, the great Tapaswin Parasurama opened his eyes, and his eyes fell on Karna. And he smiled tenderly and told him, "Get up, my child. Who are you? What are you doing here? What have you come here for? How may I help you?" And Karna closed his eyes, and he knew of the great stories of the great Parasurama, of how he hated the Kshatriya race, and the only Kshatriya had ever trained was Bhishma, and that was all because Ganga Janvi had gone to him and told him that she wanted him to train him. And Karna knew that if he told this great Parasurama that he was part Kshatriya, for his father was a Suta, whose mother was a Brahmana, and his father was a Kshatriya, and Adhiratha's father was a Kshatriya, this great Brahmana Tapaswin would send him away and probably never ever take him as a student. And so, in that moment, knowing that his entire life of honor and fame depended on this one teacher taking him, he bent down and said, "I am a Brahmana of the Brigu clan." For Parasurama himself was a great Brahmana of the Brigu clan, a descendant of the great Rishi Brigu himself. And bowing down, he put his head at Parasurama's feet, and Parasurama's joy knew no bounds. For here was a Brahmana who looked so marvelous and so majestic, and knew at one glance that it would be a pleasure to teach him, and this Brahmana would be a warrior of unequaled class. And he told him, "Come, my child, I shall teach you everything I know." And from that day, the great Parasurama started taking Karna as his disciple, took Karna as his disciple and taught him everything he knew. He taught him the art of war, he taught him the Vedas, he taught him the Shastras, and he taught him everything. Over time, Parasurama realized that there was no student like Karna. In every way, he was marvelous. He could imbibe immense amounts of knowledge and he could recount it absolutely perfectly. He had a mind of a Brahmana who could take in hundreds and thousands of shlokas and recount it verbatim. In war, he was invincible. With his mighty arms and great physique, he learnt the art of Dhanurveda, the art of using the parashu, the axe, the art of sword, using the sword, and every other weapon, both curved and straight. And there was no competing with him, for he was absolutely brilliant in its use. And occasionally, the great tapaswin would go into periods where he would do intense meditation, which would last for days and months sometimes. And at those times, Karna would walk around the enchanted forest surrounding the Mahendra mountain. He would come across the great yakshas, the great Gandharvas, and even the devas who would come there, and the rakshasas too, and he would befriend all of them. And they would all have a natural affinity for Karna, for he was a really likable man. And by, he would learn the great astras from these yakshas, from these Gandharvas and these devas. And these devas and Gandharvas and yakshas and even the rakshasas who would come there would teach everything they knew to this beautiful, young, handsome man who seemed to be like Suryadeva himself. During one such time when the great tapaswin Parasurama was in deep meditation, Karna went down the Mahendra mountain into the western coastline and was taking his bow and arrow and letting loose arrows all around at every single object he could find. And somewhere in the distance, he saw a movement in the bushes, and taking deep aim, he let loose a fast arrow, an arrow of almost 2 meters in length. And as the arrow found its mark, he realized from the loud moan that followed that it was not a small beast that he had hit, it was a calf. He ran to it and came onto the calf and realized that his arrow had pierced the heart of the calf. That 2-meter long arrow that he had let loose with such force and velocity had gone right through the calf. And as the calf lay dead at his feet, a Brahmana came running towards him, screaming and crying and asking him what he had done. And seeing that calf dead on the floor, this Brahmana started to hug the calf and told Karna, "What have you done? This is the calf of my Homa cow. And if this calf is dead, my cow will stop giving milk and my homas will be incomplete. How could you kill this calf?" And he started sobbing and weeping on the body of this calf, and Karna stood aghast and ashamed, not knowing what to do. With a bow in his hand and a quiver of arrows on his waist, he didn't know how to overcome this emotion that this Brahmana was going through. And then red-eyed this Brahmana looked up at him and said, "I curse you, for you have killed a member of my family. You have killed the member of my family who was dearest to me. This was the child of my Homa cow, who was also the dearest to me. I curse you that one day when you shall be in battle, O vile man, O arrogant man, one day when you shall be in battle with a foe who shall be your equal, when you shall battle a foe and your life depends on it, the earth shall open up and swallow the wheel of your chariot. And there you will stand helpless by your immobile chariot, and your foe shall kill you at that instant. I curse you." And Karna was aghast. He didn't know what to say. He started begging this Brahmana to forgive him, but this Brahmana wouldn't relent. And then Karna started promising gifts to this Brahmana. He told this Brahmana that I shall gift you 700 bulls and 1,000 beautiful cows, but please take back this curse. And this Brahmana refused to relent, and when he realized that this Brahmana wouldn't relent, he started promising this Brahmana more and more. He promises Brahmana 14,000 black cows with white calves and said, I shall give you everything that you want. I shall get a mansion for you. I shall give you 700 tusked elephants with large tusks. I shall give you damsels of whatever type, hundreds in number. Tell me what you want, O Brahmana, but please take back this curse. And this Brahmana was shocked. How could this man who has killed a family member of mine think he can get away by giving me gifts? That I will forget that the calf of my Homa cow has been killed so mercilessly? An innocent calf that was just grazing around innocently has been killed by this cruel man? And does this man think he will give me gifts and change my mind? And he looked back at Karna and told him, You may promise me whatever you wish, but I do not have any desire for what you promise. For today, if I take back my curse and I forgive you, tomorrow many more of your ilk will kill innumerable helpless animals. For this Brahmana thought he was a vicious, arrogant Kshatriya who would go on hunting poor, innocent animals. And he cursed him and told him and said that I will not take back my curse, for today if I take back my curse, many more helpless animals will die at your hands and at the hands of people like you. Let this be a lesson, let this be a message that if you kill a harmless animal, you will bear the fruit of that curse, you will bear the fruit of that sin. And so saying, the Brahmana walked away. It is only to be wondered where Karna was planning to get all those mansions, those women, those servitors, those thousands of cows, elephants, calves, and all that. But well, Karna had a lot of confidence in his valor, in his bravery, and in his abilities. So Karna obviously felt that at some point of time he could convince some king to part with all these animals to give this Brahmana. And so the curse was there on Karna's head. It hung like a sword on his head. And dejectedly Karna walked back up the Mahendra mountain to where his guru was doing his tapasya. Shortly as he reached there, his guru opened his eyes and looked tenderly at him and said, You look disturbed, what is it? And Karna recounted this incident which happened with the Brahmana. And his guru Parasurama felt sad for him and said, I shall teach you the Brahmastra, the secret of the Brahmastra. Do not despair. The Brahmastra will help you wherever you are. Even if at a time in the future you are standing helpless next to an immobile chariot on the ground, fighting your greatest enemy, fighting the fight of your life, the Brahmastra that I shall teach you shall save you. The Brahmastra that I shall teach you shall protect you, and you will be able to kill your enemy with it. Come, let me teach you the Brahmastra. And so saying, the great Parasurama made Karna sit next to him. And then with this incantation of this beautiful mantra that would bring forth the Brahmastra, he taught Karna the Brahmastra. The Brahmastra appeared in front of them and then went into the body of Karna and became one with the body of Karna. And Karna's spirits were lifted. And then one day the great Parasurama said, Let us see how good you have become. I want you to duel with me. For there's only one man in all this Bhuloka who can combat with me and who can match me in the art of war. And that was my first student, Bhishma, Devavrata, as I longingly call him, as I lovingly call him. He is the only one who has bested me in duel. Let me see if you are worthy of taking on me in a duel. And that day the great Parasurama and Karna duelled like never before. First they fought with the bow and the arrow. Parasurama with his bow, the Vijaya, the great bow Vijaya given to him by Indra Sakra, created by the great Vishwakarma, That was the great bow with which the great Parasurama fought that day. Parasurama with his bow, the Vijaya, rained arrows on Karna, and Karna would use his arrows to cut down every one of those arrows in mid-flight. Not a single arrow reached either of the two warriors on that day. And then, as they ran around the beautiful Mahendra mountain, firing arrows at each other and exhausted their quivers, they took their swords and attacked each other. And for every blow that Parasurama would rain down on Karna, Karna would have a parry, and they would fight for hours together with their swords, and not a single person could draw blood from the other. And then they picked up the Parashu, the axe, Parasurama's favorite weapon. And even in this axe, the great Karna was unmatched. For every blow that Parasurama put, Karna would effortlessly move away and wiggle away and use the axe, his own axe, to parry the blow. And though there were times when Karna would not be able to escape, Parasurama would at the last minute hold back the axe to prevent injury to his favorite Shishya. For there was no equal in all the worlds when you battle the great Bhargava with an axe. And so there were times in that battle with the axe where Karna almost got injured, where Karna almost got killed. It was only the love that his guru had for him that he held back and didn't let even a bit of blood be drawn from Karna's beautiful body. And finally, the end of it, Parasurama realized that this Shishya of his was a great Shishya, was capable of being a Mahabharata, someone who could take on 720,000 forces at one time. And then, tired from this great duel, Parasurama told Karna, "Go get my deer skin. I wish to lay down my head and sleep for some time, for I'm an old man now and I'm tired." And Karna said, "Why should you wait for me to get the deer skin from the ashrama? Let me sit here under this beautiful tree. You lay your head on my thighs, on my lap, and I shall cradle your head on my lap, and you can sleep for however long you wish, O great master." And on that fateful day, smiling, the great Parasurama put his head on Karna's lap and lay down and went into deep slumber. And from somewhere, destiny came in the form of a beetle called Alarka. This was a beetle which resembled the boar, with 8 legs, needle-like bristles, and sharp, vicious teeth. It started to crawl in between the leg of Karna and went to his thigh and started biting into the soft part of his thigh. And at the first bite, Karna almost flinched, but held himself back because his master lay at his lap, sleeping soundly and peacefully, for he was tired from the duel of that day. And Karna could feel the vicious beetle eat into his thigh. And with every bite that beetle took out of his thigh, he winced in pain but didn't move, for he didn't want to wake his teacher up, his Acharya up. And that vicious monster of a beetle started chewing into his thigh till it severed a vessel and drew blood, and the blood started flowing across the thigh, wetting his lower garment. And when this blood-soaked garment touched Parasurama's face, he felt the moisture of the blood and suddenly woke up. And seeing this blood on his face, he asked, "Why is it that my face has been sullied by your blood, Karna? What is it?" And Karna took that instant to open up his cloth, and there he saw this absolutely vicious beetle, like a boar with 8 legs, eating through his skin, eating the flesh, and pulled it out. And when Parasurama's eyes went on the beetle, this beetle looked at Parasurama and shrunk, and suddenly vanished into the blood that it had been drinking. And suddenly the sky was overcast with a huge form of a Rakshasa, A Rakshasa of dark hue and a red neck and red eyes looking down viciously at Parasurama and Karna. But none of them was scared, for they were great warriors. And as they were preparing themselves to fight this Rakshasa suddenly closed his eyes, folded his hands, and touched the feet of Parasurama and said, "Today I am blessed to have been looked at by you. For the anger with which you looked at me has taken this curse that I had away from me." And Parasurama looked at this Rakshasa and asked, "Pray tell me, who are you and what is this curse that you speak about?" And this ferocious Rakshasa bowed down to the feet of Parasurama and started to recount his tale. He told Parasurama of the time of an earlier Yuga in Treta Yuga. At the time of Bhrigu, the ancestor of Parasurama, he was a Rakshasa called Dhansa. And he was roaming the land when he came across the ashram of Big Bhrigu. And seeing that Bhrigu was not around, his eyes fell on the beautiful wife of Bhrigu. And there, in the absence of Bhrigu, he ravaged her. And as he was doing so, Bhrigu came back and cursed him that he go and fall into hell as a small insect, a boar-like insect, and he shall remain in this hell, subsisting on phlegm, urine, and blood and fecal matter. And thence from the time of Treta Yuga right through across Dwapar Yuga, this Dhansa was a beetle subsisting on urine, phlegm, and sweat and flesh. And then he had asked Bhrigu, "Oh great Bhrigu, I am sorry for what I have done, but till when shall I have to live in this hell?" And Bhrigu had told at that time that when one of my descendants, an avatara Rama, shall come to this earth, and when his eyes in hatred and in anger shall fall on you, then you shall be relieved from this curse. And O great Rama, you have come today. You yourself are an avatara. And when you looked at me in anger, my curse has been released and I can go back to being a Rakshasa. He's so saying, this great Rakshasa disappeared from the sky. And then Parasurama looked at Karna. He looked at Karna, who was still bleeding, and aghast he looked at the wound and said, "This is a really deep wound, and that when that insect would have clawed through your flesh and eaten in, it would have caused you immense pain. How did you not wake me up and pull that insect away from your thigh?" And Karna said, "I wouldn't dare, for if I had flinched, you would have woken up and you were so tired, my Acharya." And he said, "But that pain would have been unbearable. How did you bear the pain?" And he said, "For you, my Acharya, I would bear any pain of this world." And then Parasurama looked at him. He said, "I do not know of a Brahmana who can bear this amount of pain. For only a Kshatriya can bear this kind of a pain. Tell me the truth, O Karna, who are you? Are you a Kshatriya who has deceived and come to me, or are you really a Brahmana?" And Karna knew that this was his guru who was fuming. And if he had told his guru he was a Kshatriya, his guru would kill him at that very instant. He bent down his head and told him, "I am not a Kshatriya, O Guru, but I am a Suta. I am the son of a Suta." And Parasurama looked at him and said, "So you are a Kshatriya, at least in part. How dare you fool me and come to me? When you came to me, you told me you were a Brahmin of the Bhrigu race. And here you now divulge to me that you are partly a Kshatriya." And this was one time when Karna realized that his being a Suta would again not help him, for that Kshatriya part of the Suta was what angered Parasurama the most. And Parasurama realized that he had been teaching a man who had lied to him, a man who had deceived him, and his anger knew no bounds. And he cursed Karna and told him that at a time when you are fighting the most crucial battle of your life, when your life would be in danger and only the Brahmastra would save you, At that point of time, you shall forget the mantra for the Brahmastra. The Brahmastra shall be out of your recall, and that will be the end of you. And the Bhargava started to walk away. Karna, who was already cursed by a Brahmana that the wheel of his chariot would be swallowed by the earth at the time when he needed it the most, knew that at that time he would need the Brahmastra the most. And his guru had cursed him that he would forget that one astra that he had craved for. He ran behind his guru, begging and pleading and telling him that at every point in time he was discriminated against for being the son of a Suta. The great Dronacharya himself had removed him from his ashrama because he was a son of a Suta. And he knew that there was only one person who would be able to teach him, who would teach him the art of war, who would not discriminate against him for being a Suta, and that is why he came to him. But he was worried that if he was not a pure-bred Brahmana, a Dvijota Brahmana, a twice-born Brahmana. So a twice-born Brahmana is usually a Brahmana who was born the first time as a Brahmana and the second time in the Upanayana. And he looked at Parasurama and told him that if I had not come to you as a twice-born Brahmana with a thread across my torso, you wouldn't take me, and I desperately wanted to be a great archer, to be a great warrior. And I knew if that you wouldn't take me, I would have to live being an ordinary man with the title of a son of a Suta. By this time, the great Bhargava cooled down a little and calmed down a little, for he knew that he had never seen a student as great as Karna, who was selflessly devoted to his master, who did everything that his guru had told him. And he cooled down a little and he told him, I will not take back my curse, for this Brahmastra was taught to you when you had come to me on false pretexts. And then the great Bhargava looked softly at his beloved disciple and told him, my dear Karna, I know what it is you crave. You crave honor, you crave fame. This I bless you. The fame and honor that you crave shall be for time immemorial, shall remain for eternity. You will be deemed the greatest archer in all of Bharatvarsha. You will be deemed the greatest warrior of all of Bharatvarsha. And for all eternity, your name shall resound as the greatest. Go, my child, go down to the plains, for there down in Hastinapur, my student Drona is conducting a great exhibition, an exhibition which shall be witnessed by all the greatest kings of the land of Bharatvarsha, by the great people of the Kuru house and the great royals of the Kuru dynasty. Go there, my students, both Bhishma and Drona will be in attendance. Show what I have taught you there. That is where you shall achieve your fame. There is where you shall achieve honor. Go forth, my child. I am sorry I will not take back this curse, but you will achieve eternal fame and honor. And when you go, take with you this great bow, the Vijaya. This great bow of the Vijaya was given to me by Indra Sakra himself when I had gone on my expedition to rid the world of the Kshatriyas. When 21 times I had traversed the length and breadth of Bharatvarsha, killing the Kshatriyas. This is the great bow that was made by the great divine architect Vishwakarma himself. It is without equal, and there is no bow in the land that shall match it. When you twang the bowstring of this bow, people around you will have fear in their hearts. Take this bow as my gift and go to the plains of Bharatvarsha. And so saying, the great Parasurama gifted the great bow Vijaya. The wondrous and exquisite bow, the Vijaya, was a masterpiece made by the great Vishwakarma himself, the architect to the gods. Extremely heavy, It was said that no mortal man, no human, no ordinary human could lift it, far less string it and wield it and fight a war with it. It is a combination of strips of three types of wood fused together with molten gold. The shiny gold on the dark wood, with its exquisite carving and exquisite patterns, made it an extremely great object, an object of beauty and depth. This great bow, when pulled to full stretch, the Vijaya, it was said, would bend to almost forming a full circle with the bowstring, discharging arrows at such velocity that it could shatter chariots. It was an unimaginably strong and unbelievably beautiful bow. By the time Karna had received it from Parasurama, it was already a few thousand years old, but it looked as beautiful as it did on its first day. And taking this bow, a dejected Karna walked down from the Mahendra mountain, walked down to the plains of Bharat Varsha into Hastinapur, into the exhibition match, where he then challenged Arjuna and the Pandavas. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Nagendraya Namaha, Om Amme Narayana, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Anjaneyaya Namaha, Om Subramanyaya Namaha, Swami Sharanam Ayyappo, Om Guruve Namaha.